Plup's historic win at Genesis 5, which included taking sets off of 3 of the 4 gods in attendance on his way to securing first place, appears to signal a changing of the tides at the top level of competitive Melee. So is the era of the gods of Melee truly over, or is recency bias caused by the excitement around Plup claiming his first Genesis title causing people to jump the gun? So before we jump into statistics, it's important to understand the origin of the term gods itself, and then see how it has been used to describe the top players in Melee across the years. The concept of 5 gods in a fighting game actually does not originate from Melee at all, but actually comes from the Street Fighter community. The 5 gods of Street Fighter are a group of Japanese players who've dominated the game not only across multiple years, but across multiple titles as well. In Melee, the term originated around 2010 and was used to describe how Mango, Armada, Hungrybox, Mewtwo King, and PPMD dominated the scene so heavily that they were the only ones ever able to win any event with 2 or more of these gods in attendance for nearly 5 years. The first major challenge to this label came after Leffen's 3rd place finish at Apex 2015, where he officially became the first non-god to take sets off of every single god. But although Leffen was now considered by some to be on the same level as the gods, there was not another deity added to the pantheon, and he was instead given the title of Godslayer. The second challenge to the title of the 5 gods came from PPMD's absence from the game due to health issues all the way since the Battle of the Gods back in March of 2016. Although PPMD has been saying that he will hopefully return back to the scene as soon as he can, most believe that his time away from the scene may have set him back too far to ever return to his former glory. The last major event that has caused some to dispute the modern validity of the 5 gods was Plup's 2nd place finish at the Big House 7, where he became the second non-god to take sets off of all of the gods. Plup's win at DreamHack Atlanta over both Hungrybox and Mewtwo King, and his win over all of the 4 active gods and Leffen at Genesis 5 has only added more fuel to the fire that the era of the 5 gods has come to a close. So now with all of that in mind, can we definitively say that currently there are truly no more gods in competitive Melee, or at the very least, that the term god doesn't hold anywhere near the same power that it did when it was first used? In my opinion, the answer is a resounding yes. The evidence that I want to point to prove this is the placings at the 3 most recent Super Majors, the Big House 7, Spring Smash Summit, and Genesis 5. At the Big House, the entire top 6 only lost to players within the top 6, which shows just how close and skilled these players appear to be. The Big House is also the only of the last 3 Super Majors where Mewtwo King was able to make it the top 8, and also only suffered losses to the top 6, which very realistically may cause him to be seeded 6th at the next Super Major, which adds even more to the argument that the term gods is outdated. Summit 5's placings look most like a Gods era tournament out of the 3 events, and they actually almost exactly mirror the placings of another important tournament in the history of the Gods, Apex 2015, with Hungrybox and Plup being the only ones whose placings differ. But Leffen and Plup both outplacing at least one god for the 2nd tournament in a row just added more credence to the newly found fluidity of the top 6. And finally, the event that put the nail in the coffin of the God era, Genesis 5. Here Plup became the 3rd person to claim a Genesis title, and the only person to win a tournament traditionally referred to as a Super Major besides Hungrybox, Armada, or Mango since Apex 2015. Alongside Plup and Leffen outplacing every god besides Hungrybox yet again, Mewtwo King was the only player in the top 6 who lost to a player outside the top 6. And to further help illustrate this changing of the guard that I believe is happening in the competitive Melee scene, let's compare these 3 events that we just looked at to their predecessors. Here the change is represented in the shift of medal placings between the first 3 and last 3 events. Leffen and Plup combined only earned 1 medal at these first 3 events, but at the last 3, they have more than all of the top 4 do together. So then what are the conclusions that we can draw from this tournament data? Firstly, and most importantly, Plup and Leffen have appeared to reach the same level of the gods, so calling them Godslayers seems disingenuous, and calling them gods feels untrue both to the origin of the term gods and the beginning of the era of the gods. Secondly, many of the gods have recently begun to start to show holes here and there in their armor, which has removed much of the prestigious gap that once existed between the gods and everyone else. Mewtwo is the biggest offender of this, with things such as his losing records against both Chew and Axe in 2017, and his inability to win a Super Major, which both make it appear that his time sharing domination at the highest level of Melee is coming to a close unless he's able to make a major change. From these two intertwined conclusions, it appears that we have truly entered a new era of competitive Melee that looks like it will be dominated by fluidly moving and nearly equally skilled members of the top 6, or Sacred 6 if you're looking for a term to replace gods. And yeah, that's about it for this video. I would love to hear what you guys think on this matter, because I feel like this is going to fall into a more controversial video, even though it does seem like that Melee is moving to a different time. But a lot of times, I remember when I made the video before on if Plup should be considered a god now, it fell a lot into arguments about semantics and if someone else could actually become a new god. So it might get tangled up in that sort of discussion, and that makes sense because it's a term that's been around for a while, and even if people all unanimously declare that the era of the gods is over, people are still going to use the term gods here and there. I'm gonna try my best to shift over to the top 6 instead of the gods, unless I'm talking about like a specific time back when the gods were dominant or something like that. But I'm going to try my best to stay saying the top 6 when I'm able to instead of the gods and god slayers, because it can get very confusing for people who don't consider like Leffen to be a god or don't consider Plup to be a god. And I wrote predictions for the top 6 in 2018. Going right now, like from what we've seen so far, even though it's super hard to make a prediction now, my top... If Genesis 5 is an indication, if Genesis 5, Summit, and the Big House 7 are the indication for the rest of the year, especially putting huge recency bias in the Genesis 5, guessing right now, I think unless people figure out Hungrybox, he's still probably going to be number 1, which is a little sad, but Hungrybox, I respect him a whole lot as a competitor. But I'd say Hungrybox 1, I have a feeling Armada's going to bounce back, so I'd say Armada 2. I think Mango's going to have 1 or 2 good tournaments, and then that's going to be it. And then, it's a shame that he's going to retire. He's thinking about retiring at the end of this year. So I'm going to say, for super bold predictions, because you know how well that went for Genesis, saying Crush was going to get top 8. As of now, if I had to make a crazy prediction, and don't hold me to this is just me kind of just going for it, and just something fun to look back on that I can forget about if I was completely wrong, or point to and say I'm a god if I was completely right, or say I'm a member of the top 6. See, gotta keep my... God, I'm so dumb. This is why I script everything. But I'd say Hungrybox 1, Armada 2, Plup 3... Maybe no. I'll put my faith a little bit in Mango. I think top 3 will stay the same, then 4 will be Plup, 5 will be Leffen, 6 will be Mewtwo if he's able to hang in there, and he finally learns the Ices matchup. But that's my bold prediction. I'd love to hear what else, and also your discussion on the video itself. Follow me on Twitter, as I say, and always, at SaveAsUntitled, to get previews of next videos. I tweet out stuff. I like semi-live tweeted Genesis, not like annoying tweeting everything out, live tweeting, just like sharing my opinions on stuff, which I do every once in a while. And also, I wanted to point out, I post this over on Twitter as well, that I'm going to the Gang, which is the Philly Regional, on February 3rd. It's the day before my 21st birthday. I would say, everyone, you should just, like, buy me drinks, but it'll technically be illegal for one more day after that, even though after I go 0-2 in bracket, I'm probably going to need a drink. And also, if you want to give me a nice early birthday present, you can head over to Patreon, and besides making me super happy, and giving me funding for my tab on my birthday, you get videos early. Most likely the Patreons are going to get this video a day before you guys. I post special stuff over there, like my Excel sheet for my ranking, my top 100, and other stuff like that. And I think that's about it. I've been SaveAsUntitled. I hope you guys enjoy this video, and I will see you guys next time.